Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. Today we are going to remove the rear wheel on a VFR750F and we are going to replace it with a new rear wheel from a VFR800. So this video actually has a 98 rear wheel already on the VFR 750, and it's going to be going over to my 800, and I'm going to be putting a different wheel on this one. So the first thing we need to do on our VFR 750 is loosen the 12 millimeter bolts that are on the exhaust clamp, and that's at the flange where the header pipe meets the slip-on. Next we're going to take a 12 millimeter wrench and our ratchet, and we're going to break free the bolt that holds the slip-on onto the passenger foot peg. And we just need to remove that nut that's off the back of there, and our slip-on will pull right off the bike. So with the nut removed, we're just going to gently move that canister out of the way. And now we have a 19 millimeter socket that we're going to pull the lugs off. Your rear brake should be strong enough that you can stand on the rear brake pedal and loosen the lug nuts just as you would in a car. So remember, righty tighty, lefty loosey. And now we're going to get that last one that's a little bit stubborn. So this wheel has a fairly decent pilot power on it, and what I'm going to do is put this tire over onto my VFR 800 and wear it out on that bike, and I'm going to put a brand new rear tire on that wheel and put it on this bike. So now we're carefully going to lift our rear wheel out of the way. We're going to try not to hit the painted surface on anything that might scratch the paint. Alright, so now we're looking at a rear wheel of a VFR 800 that has not been modified for a 4th gen VFR. So what I'm doing now is I'm removing the Schrader valve from the inside of the valve core and releasing the air. And with my tire machine, I'm breaking the bead on the old tire. This is a Continental Conti Motion tire. I was fortunate to get 1,331 miles out of this rear tire. Not very good. I would love to say that I got a lot of mileage out of it, but I was not impressed by the mileage that I got out of this rear tire. Conti Motions will not be in my future. So with the wheel locked into my clamps on my tire machine, I'll tighten down that clamp. I lower the tire machine arm, adjust the prying area. Then I take my bar, stick it in the tire, pull the bar down over the wheel, bring my arm down, pull the bar around the rim, gets off the top bead. Now we're going to do the same thing with the bottom bead. It's easy as that. Tire changing is kind of a no-brainer. So here's just a little short idea of how you need to cut a 5th gen rear wheel to make it fit on a 4th gen. Um, I did do another video. If you look on probably the video that was done just before this one, you'll see the entire process of cutting down this wheel and making it fit onto a 4th gen. All you're doing is taking your grinder and you're cutting out a section between the lug holes that's big enough for the nut and the bolt of the brake rotor to fit in the wheel. Doesn't matter how ugly you make these cuts, because nobody's going to see them but you and the guy that replaces your tires. So after we've made our cuts, we're going to put the wheel on the hub of the VFR, and we're going to just spin that wheel. We don't want any gap between the wheel and the hub. It needs to be flush, touching, solid, not wiggling around. Trust me, you can't take out too much aluminum. So with the wheel fitting on my hub the way I want to see it, now I can set my wheel back up in the tire changer and put a new Michelin tire on. Yes, Bidendum is my friend. He's protected me and keeping me safe for many, many years. So I use Michelin's every chance I can get. That was a shameless plug for Michelin. I love Michelin. So make sure your tire is going in the right direction. The arrows on the tire need to match the direction the wheel rotates. This is for wicking the water away from the tire when you're riding in the rain. And then we just push the bottom tire bead down around the wheel. And then we're going to use our bar and we're going to install the top tire into the bead. Alright, so now I'm airing up the tire to seat the beads. I'm using an air chuck that does not have a center in it, and the Schrader valve is not in the valve stem. So anytime that you change out a tire, it's very important that you always put a new Schrader valve inside the valve stem. It's not a good idea to reuse the valve core over and over. For the 10 cents that new Schrader valve is going to cost you, it's probably worth replacing. And since this is a VFR 180 tire going on a VFR, Honda does recommend that you use 42 psi in the rear and 36 on the front tire. I've only been riding on VFRs for the last 18 years, and I've been keeping 42 and 36 in my tires, and I haven't crashed a bike yet due to the wrong tire pressures. So if you want to argue with me about tire pressures, argue all you want, because it's falling on deaf ears. There's a reason why Honda puts the tire pressure rating on the swing arm. Maybe you should follow it. So with our tire inflated the way it should be, we're going to take our wheel and we're going to slide it on our computer balancer. And then we're going to take our VFR hub and we're going to slide that on the shaft of the computer balancer. And with a couple spacers, and now we'll put the threaded nut on there to hold our wheel in place on the balancer. We're going to turn our balancer on, give it a little spin, so I didn't take off the old wheel weights, and it's asking for a little bit of weight here. If I get off my tired ass and rotate the tire. So it's calling for 0.75 ounce, 3/4 of an ounce. So I'm going to scrape off the wheel weights that are on there. And if you have a balancer or you need to remove wheel weights, I have found that body filler tools work great for removing the wheel weights off of wheels. So now my wheel's asking for a full ounce, and what I'll do is I'll take a couple of half-ounce wheel weights and I'll glue them on. So right now I'm cutting the wheel weights. And now I'm going to grab some window cleaner and a paper towel, and I'm going to wipe down the wheel where the wheel weight needs to go. If any of you are ever in the Murphy, North Carolina area and you need tires, be sure to look me up. I guarantee that I can get you cheaper tires than anybody in your neighborhood. So there's a perfectly balanced wheel. I'm going to remove my wheel from my balancer, and it's time to install it on the VFR. So very carefully we're going to put the wheel up into the bike and slide the wheel over the lugs and start installing lug nuts. Again, just like you would do in a car. I thought I cut this video down. I really apologize for all the dead air. I could have got this video down to about 18 minutes or less. I didn't screw around so much. So we put our 19mm socket on the lug nuts and we tighten down. And what we're going to do is we're going to do one, not all the way tight, just loosen up, and then we're going to do a second one, maybe a little tighter, the third one a little tighter. And what this does is it aligns the wheel between all of the lugs, so the wheel's on there evenly. So now we're going to tighten down one, and we'll cross over to the one across from it. We're going to tighten it down, and then we'll move to another one, we'll tighten it down, and then finish up with the one that's across from that. So sometimes this can be the difficult part. If you have the stock VFR exhaust, it's much easier to get it on. Once you switch over to a slip-on, sometimes the slip-ons are a little bit more difficult to mount onto that flange. So we're going to take our canister and we're going to put it on the flange of the header pipe, and then we're going to line up our bracket on the canister to the foot peg bolt, and we're going to just put that nut on the foot peg bolt loosely just to hold the slip-on in place while we mess around with this clamp around the flange. And when you pull yours off, you'll see that the header pipe actually has two tabs that stick out of it, and those two tabs line up with holes that are on this clamp. And once you get those lined up with the clamp, then you can start tightening it down. And you also want to, like wiggle your exhaust to make sure that the exhaust pipe flange fits on top of the header pipe flange, and you get a good seal there. And then you just tighten down that clamp and make sure that your slip-on is tight on the bike, and then finish up by tightening down the bolt that's on your passenger foot peg. So this has pretty much been how you remove your VFR750F rear wheel. I also showed you how to replace a tire and make a 5th generation, 6th generation rear wheel fit a 4th generation, which is a good idea if you can find yourself a 5th generation rear wheel. The VFR750 handles great with the 180/55 rear tire. Thanks for watching my video, and please watch some of my others.